Welcome back to the Player One podcast. I go by Squid, and today I am joined by Atlanta-based DJ and producer aptic. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man, of course. Do you want to start things off by kind of giving us the details as to how you got into the scene and what you're about?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't get into the scene till pretty late, like my latter years of college. I didn't grow up listening to electronic music at all. And I guess, through friends and whatnot, I was keen on the idea of going to a show. But I just never, it never really, I didn't set out to do it. I guess it was kind of just like we have a ticket for you, so come with us type deal. So yeah, I guess that was it was Bass Nectar, I think, which was, kind of a wild thing to walk into with no expectations. And yeah, obviously, fuck that guy, whatever now, but the show has definitely opened my eyes to just a way to, just the energy there, the passion for it was something that I had never really experienced in a live context. So that was very inspiring. Did that for a couple of years, then kind of grew out of it. Did the classic, Bass Nectar fan to Tipper fan pipeline. But yeah, the first time I saw Tipper at Okeechobee, 2018, I guess, that was when I was super, super moved and inspired by it. And it was presented to me in a sense, in a sense that just clicked, it just worked. It totally challenged my perception of sound and rhythm and anything I had heard up to that point. So that was when I was really drawn into it and started taking it seriously. And that was roughly 4 years ago. So yeah, and then just was doing, making trash beats for about 2 years or so. Still make a lot of trash beats, but now I make some decent ones in between. But yeah, I guess about 2 years in is when I started releasing music. And then, yeah, from there, just been making beats and putting them on the internet, playing some shows. That's starting to pick up a little bit, but yeah, I don't know that I really got into it to be a DJ. I just really wanted to make music that, moved me and made me excited and felt as if I could do that, then I could move some other people by it, hopefully. So yeah, here we are, still learning, but developed a few tricks here and there.
Yeah, right on, man. I mean, in terms of, you said Tipper was a pretty big inspiration for you in terms of the electronic side of things before you got into it, considering you said you got into it a little late. Who were some of your inspirations just in terms of being passionate about music in general?
Yeah. My Morning Jacket, definitely, still always will be one of my favorite musical acts ever. Bon Iver, definitely. Been on that whole train for a long time and still am. I'm going to see him actually next month.
Cool.
Yeah, super early on it was Coldplay and the Avett Brothers. And I definitely am not into anything that Coldplay has released in the last decade, but those early albums will always be important to me. I'll always hold them very dear.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, you're also in a part of the United States right now that's kind of becoming the next mecca of electronic music scenes. And, with so many people moving there and just a ton of shows happening, I'm sure that's a pretty exciting thing to have happening in your own city.
Yeah, super, super fortunate. It's cool to see how how far the scene has come since I got into it, even though it's only been, 4 or so years. But yeah, with Def popping up here, that has certainly put us on the map in a more national sense, and I guess international now too. They just had Alex Perez out here, so yeah, super cool to see. And it's just a very fresh take on live events. We have a couple promotion companies here that do a good job throwing shows and still do, but the idea of taking it off the grid and very low production, just invest in a sound system and find a cool venue is feels very special. So yeah, and now you're starting to see that style of boiler room-esque type thing gain popularity throughout the country, which is cool. I'm very into that.
Yeah, and I mean, not to minimize it at all too, but you guys have one of my favorite venues in the entire Southeast, and that's Terminal West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
Terminal
place
West is
incredible.
awesome. Yeah, I love it. Sounds great in there. It's a perfect size. I'm actually playing there for the first time in about a month. So very much looking forward to that. It's always been a goal. So yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that show because that's Trip Street, Common Creation, and one other artist, I believe. But
Veil, yeah,
and
yeah,
Vale, yeah. How could I forget?
yeah.
That's a
Stacked,
pretty huge show, man. That's gonna be
stacked.
fun.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. Shout out to Trip Street for hosting me. So yeah, he's kind of helped me out a bit here and there. He's been playing my tunes out for a while, which is cool. So getting my music in front of ears and giving me cool opportunities. So shout out to him.
Yeah, it's sick, man. Well, I mean, I love having artists like you on the show because halftime as like an umbrella term as a genre is a genre that I don't know a ton about. And I know
Hmm.
like the basics, I know the artists to look out for, and I know what sounds good. But it's definitely something that I always learn something about whenever I talk to somebody about it. And I know that you kind of like you're a little bit more focused on like the neuro side of things in terms of
Hmm.
subgenres.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, halftime, you know, by definition, it's like it derives from like drum and bass, halftime drum and bass, neuro-funk, which was like huge in the UK in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And then obviously like in a rhythmic sense, it's like very inspired by hip hop, R&B, that type of stuff. So yeah, I mean a lot of the people in this sector like grew up listening to like hip hop artists, like Jay Dilla, stuff like that, The Alchemist, whatnot, MF Doom. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like the drum patterns and the rhythmic sense, it's very like moved by hip hop, but in a sonic palette sense, it comes a lot from drum and bass. It's a lot of similar sounds we'll hear in there. But yeah, it's definitely catching on here. Or at least it exploded a couple years ago, I guess, when like Slugwife kind of hit the States and was going everywhere, and there's a ton of hype around that. That's who kind of put me onto it. Was like Cursa and Seppa, like 2017-ish, I want to say, when they kind of started gaining traction over here. So that definitely put it on the map domestically. Yeah, then there's a bunch of other big artists that make a lot of really sick halftime music. Jade Cicada, obviously, big inspiration of mine. So
Yeah, man, it's definitely a very unique sound, and I think that it's awesome to have that sort of variety right now, especially when some of the I shouldn't say all of the scenes, so like some of the scene is pretty saturated with some of the same sounds right now. So like
mm-hmm.
halftime is something that I really respect in the aspect that it's something that's has been exclusively unique for as long as that it's existed. So
Yeah, it felt very fresh. It was a very like refreshing take on electronic music. I was completely intoxicated by it the first time I really sat down and listened to it. So yeah, it's awesome.
and your sound itself, something I think that really shines through with you is your like pluckiness in that sort of sound. So like it
Yeah.
gets heavy, but like it's bouncy enough where like it continues with it. And one of these songs that I think that we have to talk about is the recent collab that you had with Deez. I
Hmm.
actually was privileged enough to see it live when Deez came to Charlotte for Digital Gardens
Yeah,
Festival.
yeah.
And man, I listened to the track prior, but like listening to it live is completely different experience. It's incredible,
I
man.
love that. Yeah. Yeah, Andy's the man. That's the boy. Shout out to him. But yeah, I can't help but laugh when you talk about the plucks, because yeah, it's almost like a crutch for me. I just really love those like stabby percussive basses, and I'm like trying to practice and like making tunes that aren't like solely based around them, but naturally it just always happens. But yeah, that tune is actually probably 2 years old at this point. We just During the pandemic, I think I had submitted it to a Twitch stream. He was in the chat and he hit me up, and it's just like dope tune, whatever. And then asked if I wanted to collab. So like, yeah, we can just, this only has one drop, so I can just shoot you this and call it a day. So I sent it back to him. He wrote the second drop, and it just very effortlessly came together. But it was cool for it to finally find a good home. Those guys Unveiled do really cool stuff, and it was on a compilation for a really good cause. So I was very happy with how it turned out.
I was gonna ask about Vale in general because it says that it's fan developed. What does that kind of entail?
So I guess I'm not sure. Honestly, I would take that to mean that like they, the people that they work with on there, people that they like, look up to and like are fans of themselves, not necessarily just like colleagues or, just someone that you're trying to like, they're in it for the right reason. So they're just trying to put artists on that they really respect and like. They do a very good job. I feel like they're like really helping popularize drum and bass in the States, which is cool. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, I believe Nick P, and I'm not sure exactly who else run it. I couldn't tell you for sure. I know Nick P is involved very highly. He did the artwork for the compilations, which is super cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't even know he did visuals before I saw that he was credited on the cover.
Yeah, he's quite the visionary. He does a lot for the scene. He's a great dude.
Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, I think that the track itself is super catchy, and I always find myself going back to it. And I know that, like you said, it's been like 2 years since you guys kind of like had it solidified. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the first time I ever heard it was in the AV mix you did with Matt Siegel and all the other artists that he featured.
Yeah, that was awesome.
What was it, Synapsis?
Synapsis, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was actually supposed to come out on a label that I will keep unnamed, but they fumbled it. They fumbled it hard, like the day of, and then the days leading up to it's where I was just like, all right, this does not feel. I feel like I'd be compromising my like self-respect to be like just like stand by them treating it like that, and I was just like, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna release it on my page and whatever. It'll get less views certainly, but like I'll own it, and I don't have to be attached to these people that like disrespected me. So
Oh my god.
yeah, I mean, yeah, long story short, but yeah, so then like very last minute, Matt and like all his little VJ friends, he like, shot out a little blurb to see if anyone would be interested, and like a bunch of people were down, and some like insanely talented artists. Yeah, and they threw that together pretty quickly, and then that was kind of just an extra little, gave it some extra push, put it in front of some more eyes. So that was very cool. I'm very thankful he did that. It's the homie.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and all of his stuff is incredible. I think the most recent thing I saw from him that he did was I think it was a cover for Ill Gates.
Yeah. The
A
album
lot of his
cover.
stuff, man. It's so cool.
That was he is extremely talented, and he's only been doing this for like 2-3 years.
Really?
Yeah, and he's like doing full-time freelancing now, which is awesome. Working with some like really big clients. He just did a like animated a commercial for Adult Swim a couple months ago, so that was awesome.
What? That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, his output and his work ethic is like intimidating almost. It's like yeah, he's cracked. But yeah, that Ill Gates album was him and another buddy, Oracular, our friend Nick, who's super sick also relatively new to visual design and all that, or at least pretty sure he's relatively new to it. But yeah, insanely talented.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, I have such a respect for that profession in general. It adds so much to the scene.
Yeah, it's the AV. It's been very cool over the years. I think the whole Tipper thing kind of popularized putting a strong emphasis on like, the audio component being just as important as the visual, and then other people are kind of starting to follow that too. So
Do you think that's a bad thing?
um
Because I have conversations with people where like you could go either way, where it's like,
yeah,
does it take away from the music? Do people expect too much from the visuals? Like,
yeah, so I think it definitely can be a good thing. There's definitely been plenty of times where it like strongly enhanced and like just made the overall like paired perfectly with the music and just created a whole new, way more immersive experience. I've experienced plenty of sets like that. That being said, I think it can be refreshing sometimes when there's no visuals at all and there's no pressure to, sit there and stare at something. You have, it's like it's more about just like being with the crowd and like feeding off the energy with the people around you. So I think, and that's kind of becoming more popular now too, like the lower production type things. So yeah, like to answer your question, I think there's a place for both. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think that sometimes the experience can be just as special when there's like no visuals at all.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything you said. Although there's like a select group of people, and this I think applies more to like the newer fans that like, there's an expectation for lasers and visuals at shows, and if there isn't that, then they don't even want to go in the first place. And
Yeah,
it's
I
just such
think
a
yeah.
disrespecting thing to the scene, man.
Yeah, that's lame. Like definitely give it a shot, trust the people that are putting the event together, that they know what they're doing more than you do, I guess. Um but yeah, I mean, it's definitely become expected, but you know, lames will be lames. Let them stay home.
Absolutely.
Someone will be there.
I mean, I say this, but me and my friends are such audiophiles. When we don't have a nice sound system, we're like,
Oh
could have
yeah,
been better.
honestly, it's I have left shows of artists that I like really revere and look up to 10-15 minutes into the set just because the sound is so terrible and it's hurting my ears and it's just making me frustrated,
Yeah.
specifically, like I think a lot of clubs will have way too many subs than the room requires in like a 300-person room, and then when you're in there the sub bass is just piercing and it's overpowering the entire mix. And like when that's the case, you really like miss all of the detail in the song. It's like a sub is one harmonic. It's literally when all you hear is sub, every song is going to sound the same more or less. So it's frustrating when you're like, I've heard this song and I know how it's supposed to sound, and it just like simply does not. You're like missing out on all of the meaning. It feels like, because the sub is
Yeah.
supposed to just be like a physical presence mostly. It's like you want to feel it, but you don't necessarily want to hear it overpower everything. So
Yeah. It can get so
yeah.
noisy.
Yeah, no, a sound system is everything, like back to your original point. And I don't think a lot of people realize how much that makes or breaks a set. And even if you're not specifically like, this system sounds so good, this is perfectly tuned, as like someone that's not a producer or a audio nerd, it will make it a lot more fun, even though you're not realizing like how much that is adding to your experience.
Right. And I mean, that's why it's so unfortunate that everybody's being almost forced to wear earplugs now because it's so
Yeah,
damaging to your ears.
yeah,
People that
yeah,
don't know
and
how to
yeah,
put sound systems together.
right. And honestly, even when it's at like a normal level where it's not, it doesn't feel like it's hurting your ears, it's like you still need to have earplugs in.
Yeah,
um
absolutely.
yeah, I've gotten better about wearing mine. I've had them for years and years, but I don't know why it took me so long to put them on my keys, so now I just don't have to think about ever having them. But yeah, I used to be really bad about forgetting to bring them to shows, and I'm like, nothing I can really do now. But yeah,
Yeah, right. Once
I
you're there,
hope,
you're there.
yeah, hope my ears don't start ringing Monday.
Right. Um, well, dude, going back to your process a little bit, I know that this is something that's kind of grown in popularity. It's always kind of been there, but I feel like it hasn't been as popular as it is now. Um, but coding in producing with halftime, are you somebody that typically likes to dabble with that, or do you like try to like do something that's more along the plugin route?
Yeah, no, I haven't really gotten into the whole modular VCV type deal. I'm very much just like working in a synth. I pretty much do like everything, almost everything that you hear in my tunes is made with one synth, Serum. So like 90% of my time producing, I would say, is just like working within there. I was definitely much more interested in like sound design than arrangement or anything like that for a long time. So that is still like something that I'm like more comfortable doing and can spend a lot more time doing, but I'm trying to balance it better now and not just, because at a certain point, the changes that you're making are like arbitrary. No one is going to notice it. And like, you might even be making it worse. So trying to be more efficient in that way now. But yeah, I have no computer science knowledge at all. Honestly, I just like, I operate off of just like feel and just like, if it sounds good to me, then I'll roll with it.
I mean, I have no I have no way of knowing the like how you would even go about the coding thing. The one thing that
Yeah.
I've seen that makes sense to me in terms of like just making something super creative and then like screwing with it afterwards is people that have like the randomizers, and they'll
Hmm.
kind of like take that and then manipulate it after they've found something that they're like, this could be something, or
Yeah, yeah,
just kind of like get rid of it if it's not.
yeah. I think like it's super helpful to like separate sound design and songwriting, because they're definitely two different skills that kind of call for two different moods. And when you want to make sounds, the random stuff is like super helpful and cool, because a lot of times you will land on stuff that you could have never like intentionally made, but you're like, that sounds cool and it works. So that's how like you get a lot of unique, like a lot of the things that you hear in like electronic music where you're like, how in the world did they make that? A lot of the times they couldn't really tell you, because they're just stacking endless amounts of plugins and automating all sorts of parameters. So yeah, I've definitely stumbled on a lot of really cool things doing that I could have never intentionally made. And I kind of have diverted from that process now, because I try to like write with more intention kind of. So I do sound design within the project for the most part, so that I have some context and I know like, what range it needs to fill and what like, I can match it to the overall theme of the tune. But yeah, I definitely need to get back to doing the random stuff, because I'm pulling from the same slices of audio that I recorded in like 2019, 2020. So that time to upgrade.
I mean, it's not a bad thing, man, if it works and it's not broken. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. And I think it's good when you like, as an artist, you kind of like create a sonic universe, a sonic palette for your music that kind of makes you identifiable. So yeah, I think that I've kind of, in a sense, sort of have a recognizable sound in my tunes. But
Absolutely.
who knows?
Yeah, no, and I feel like it also makes it easier for a more immersive show experience too, because transitions are so much cleaner then. You're not having
Yeah,
sounds that sound completely out of pocket coming from something completely different. You're
yeah,
having more of
exactly.
like the same sounds across the board, but like, you're switching it up as the songs go forward.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's good. It's like you kind of have to find a balance between making it like all fit together, but not making it all sound like too similar.
Right. Yep.
Because there are some artists that are like extremely talented, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I feel like a lot of their songs sound so similar that when you see them live, you kind of lose focus for a little bit, and you like, they subconsciously just lose your attention, because it feels like sometimes you've been listening to the same song over and over again. So it's
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
helpful. Yeah, it's helpful to have some contrast.
either that, or you just get straight up bored of their produced music too, like because
Yeah.
when you're not having that full show experience, or after you've listened to a mix like 50 times, you're gonna like go back to their just individual tracks, and
Yeah.
if it's all the same, you're not gonna want to listen to it.
Yeah. My favorite artists are the ones that like can write any genre of music and just body it. I think that is such a unique skill to have. And there's not too many artists that can do that, but the ones that can, I'm like, respect.
I think this is actually a good segue into one of the things I wanted to talk about, because when I was prepping for this, I went to your SoundCloud and I saw that in your likes you had listened to the new Noisia album, the
Oh
the
yeah.
new and final Noisia album.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't know about you, but Noisia in general for me was not only one of the reasons why I got into the scene, but two, Vision Radio was a big inspiration for me when I
Yeah.
did college radio. So I mean, do you have like a favorite song off the album that we can talk about, or do you have a favorite Noisia song in general?
Off of the album, I would probably say Scrapped, or
Mm,
the Amanu collab. I think it's called Shift. Um, Favorite one all time. That is tough. Probably something off of Outer Edges, like Mantra or Collider. Are probably, I would say, the two, because that album is what really like got me into them.
yeah.
And I was lucky enough to see them, or see one of them. I think it was Martain, but when they opened up at Bass Center one year. So that was
Oh
kind of
wow.
my introduction to them. And they obviously played a much sicker set than Bass Nectar did. And I was like, yeah, who the fuck? So that's when I kind of started digging. But yeah, a lot of their singles that have been out for a while that are off this album, I'm a huge fan of too. Halcyon, that one with the upbeats.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they are, in my opinion, like the goats, like actually the greatest electronic music project that I've ever heard.
Yeah, especially being a trio, like being able to kind of like put all their own inspiration onto tracks and also,
Mm-hmm.
convey that live is insane. And I don't think that there's another trio that's done it like them.
No, no, I don't
Um,
think there will ever be any like, and I mean, I could be wrong, but it's hard to imagine anyone having as much influence on the scene as they have had over the years. I mean, pretty
Absolutely.
much anyone doing it now is either directly inspired by them or their biggest inspiration. It's like their reach is like infinite.
Yeah, and their range and variety and their discography in general is just absolutely mind blowing. I'd like
Yeah,
there are artists that come close, but there's just no, like you were saying, like I can't imagine another person doing the same sort of thing. It's
yeah,
insane.
yeah. There's definitely a lot of mind-blowingly good music that comes out of specifically the UK, the drum and bass scene, like Mefuse. I mean, Mefuse, I think, is on that level. Camo and Crooked are like on that level, but
Yep.
or a tier slightly below it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of people that come out of that sector that their music is like objectively perfect. Like the mixes are so clean and everything just has so much intention. So it's like I might not love it, but that's a subjective thing. It's not like I can say that any of it sounds like bad.
No, yeah. I mean, I would argue that most UK artists are light years ahead of us
Yeah,
in terms of like the US, in terms of both genre fluidity and just
yeah,
clean, like you were saying, clean mix downs and just everything, man. It's just insane. And I'm a deep dub person, so that being such a large culture over there as well, it's inexcusable for me to be,
yeah,
not into it. So
yeah. I got to make it out there eventually. I want to go do a little trip. See some. I guess it would have been a good time to do the Noisia invites things, but no more opportunities to
yeah.
do that. But yeah, I definitely want to make it out to like Bristol. Go to check out the rave scene there.
Yeah, no, Bristol is one of the what do you even call it? Bucket list
Yeah, yeah.
spots for me. I'm still
It's
waking up,
Mecca.
dude.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. It was a long weekend for me, so I'm still behind on sleep. I feel you.
Yeah, same. I haven't even had my coffee yet.
Oh man, bless.
Well, I feel like we have to talk about the show. So the show is going to be on Saturday, May 28th. We got Vector, Common Creation, Aptic himself, Scopic, and Sushi Man all playing at the venue, aka the main course in Columbia. Vector for me has been a top 3 artist for like the past couple months. Like I
Yeah,
can't get away from him. And I
yeah,
mean, needless to say, integrate as well. So,
yeah.
dude, incredible stuff.
Yeah, Vector is definitely, speaking of artists that can write any genre and kill it. He's definitely one of those. He's been like one of my favorite artists and biggest inspirations since the get go. I discovered his music in like I think it was on when the first Slugwife show happened in Atlanta. I was like Cursa, Rezo, and Vector. So I was introduced to him then, and I was like, "Who is this man?" So yeah, I think it was that song "Do It Live," I think, which is a collab with Carl that first turned me on to them, and it was like it felt very clear to me from that point that this kid was about to blow up, and he did certainly, or is, and it's very well deserved. He works insanely hard. I'm like honestly mind blown by his output. He releases you know like 5 songs a month at least on Bandcamp and posts on his
Yeah.
own page too, obviously, and tours like crazy. It's absurd. He just cranks them out. But yeah, it's very cool for me to be playing a show with him. So I certainly appreciate the opportunity. I actually there's a show like 2.5, 3 years ago that him and Carl played. And I like went up to him after and like gave him a flash drive with some beats I had made that were, I'm sure, garbage. But he was nice about it. He was like, "Yeah, dope tunes." And that I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. But yeah, it's funny looking back on that now that I'm like playing a show with him. So yeah, kind of a little full circle moment.
Yeah, you definitely got to bring it up to him. See if he still has
Yeah,
the
no,
flashlight.
I bring it up to him like all the time when I see him. We laugh about it.
That's funny, man.
He swears he's like he's not. I mean, like I said, he was a nice dude, but he like swears that I'm like those are probably so garbage. I don't even want to hear it. And he's like, no, they're good, but I don't believe him. I was making some mid music at that point, but I was getting there. I was on my way.
Yeah, I mean, and look how far you've come. Now you're playing a show with him, and you're also playing your fair share of shows in Atlanta as well. I mean,
so
fuck, dude, you're opening up for Trip Street.
Pretty dope. I feel fortunate. It's definitely. I mean, it's a long process, but baby steps. You know, I'm not by any means where I want to be, but it is cool looking back to see where I've come. Absolutely, man.
Well, I mean, that's all I have for you, and the Zoom meeting is ending in 5 minutes, so I feel like I have this pressure to stop.
Cool. No, all good. I mean, I'm cool to end it there. I don't, unless there's anything else you want to talk about. I think that's pretty a good look into my side of things.
Only thing that I want to talk about further is where people can go to find your music and find your socials and all that.
Got you. So soundcloud.com/aptic noise, APTIC NOISE. That's where, and I'm on Spotify too. And I actually think I have some tunes on Spotify that aren't on SoundCloud. Because I don't know, I randomly go through and like will listen back to a song and be like, I hate this. What was I doing? And then private it. And then like months later, I'll listen to it and I'm like, it's actually decent, unprivate, and go back and forth. So SoundCloud or Spotify. I'm not on Bandcamp because no one needs to pay for my music. You can download it all for free on SoundCloud. I'm on Instagram. It's at aptic with 2 underscores. I'm on Twitter. I think it's at aptic with 1 underscore, and Facebook, but I never post on there, so don't worry about it.
Right on, man. And also follow P1 Podcast _ on Instagram and Player One Productions on all socials, so you can get the updates about upcoming shows and upcoming podcast episodes. Yes. Any final remarks from you, man?
I guess, shout out to y'all for having me out. I really appreciate it. To the show and both on the podcast. It's a big honor. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'll have a lot of new tunes to play out there that no one has ever heard before. So should be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, man. So am I. Thanks for coming on. I'll catch you later, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Peace.